Yes, indeed. Good afternoon, good morning, hello, good evening. How the bloody hell are you? My name is Ben Witkowski, and you are back for episode 7 of the Universal Language of Music podcast. A podcast and audiobook and blog where a man geeks out about the beauty and brilliance that is music. Throwing in some pretty bad anecdotes. He was told once when he was 16 that he should be a stand-up comedian, and then has since used that to convince himself that he has a platform to be able to tell really bad jokes and force people to listen. That is me. Good to be here. Hope you've had a nice 2 weeks since we last interacted with each other. I've been unwell. Being sick is annoying, isn't it? Because you can't do anything. You just have to lie in bed. You literally have to lie. You just have to be like a useless blob of nothingness. I don't like being unwell. Whenever I'm unwell, all you just want to be is well, right? You just want to be plain. It's simple things. It's like getting injured. I tore some ligaments in my ankle earlier in the year, and I couldn't walk for ages. And that was an eye-opener. It's frustrating. It's just like I couldn't get a Milo. I don't know why I said Milo. Milo, I have the most horrendous Milo to milk ratio, but I think that's justified. Anyone that puts in only like 2 spoonfuls of Milo, you're absolutely kidding yourself. Like we all absolutely bombard the mug with excess Milo, but that's what makes it so glorious. So yeah, all I want to do is be better when I'm sick. I mean, most people would want that, right? It's kind of weird if you don't want that. But yeah, most people just want to feel better. Nothing special. I just want to be whelmed. Whelmed is not a word, is it? You can be overwhelmed and underwhelmed, but can you just be whelmed? Can you just be in a state of whelmness? Like if I'm sick, all I want to do is be whelmed, right? I just want to be in a state of whelmness where it's like, yeah, okay, I feel how I feel. Other situations where I would feel whelmed, going to the shops. When you go to the shops and you bring one bag and you buy just the right amount that it fits in one bag, or like there's one item in your other hand and you have a bag, that's a feeling of whelmness. It's like, yeah, cool, whatever, it fit. I don't have to pay 15 cents for another bag. Whelmness is underrated. That's another one. Can things just be rated? No, you have to be underrated or overrated, right? Milo. Oh my God. If you're putting 2 spoonfuls of Milo in your Milo, you must be in a state of whelmedness, which is horrendous. You should be very underwhelmed with 2 spoonfuls of Milo. Slap 7 or 8 in there. Get whelmed properly. Rethink your wellness. Check your wellness, even. Right, yes, anyway, wellness. Well, wellness is a function of your brain and your mind. And that is what is this week's topic. We are talking about music and the brain and the power that music has to influence your brain in a number of factors. Music. Can you be whelmed listening to music? Yes, right. Music would be constant whelmness. You wouldn't be underwhelmed or overwhelmed listening to music. It'd be very weird to be overwhelmed listening to music. Right? Or maybe not. Maybe not. There's some good YouTube videos, like 10 hours of Crazy Frog. Remember the Crazy Frog? I'm going to have to do it, aren't I? Like, blah, 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 that fucking thing. Oh my God, I used to hate that. Was I overwhelmed though? No, I certainly wasn't whelmed. I was off the whelmness spectrum. I was just pure frustration and hatred. YouTube is a magical place with these like 10-hour compilations. You get 10-hour compilations of Shrek saying, "What are you doing in my swamp?" Anything from that to Crazy Frog or I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so music in the brain. So in the audiobook, if anyone listened or read it, I talked about kind of 3 things that music did on the brain, or 3 kind of overall topics. The first one is just its general impact on the brain. And I think the most interesting thing about that is that around 25 years ago, it was believed that music was processed the same way as language. So language processed on the left side of your brain, and scientists, we'll just call them they thought music was processed on the right side of your brain. But that's been disproven, I guess, if you will. And now we understand, I did nothing. I'm not a scientist. Clearly, I'm not a scientist. I don't even know what state of whelmness I get when I listen to the Crazy Frog. But anyway, scientists realized that was not the case, and music actually activates or is processed through all these different pathways through the brain. It's actually the only concept of the universe that is processed in such a way in the brain. No other concept, no other thing, no other medium of anything in life is processed in so many complex and numerous parts of the brain as music, which is pretty epic. I mean, that talks about music's power to an extent that my rambling and my writing cannot explain. I mean, that's all you need to know when you want to ask about how powerful music is. It activates, our memory, our deception of pattern, our familiarity, our motor cortex. Like we click our fingers or we bop along to something. It resonates with emotions, which we've talked about. It helps us. It gives us goosebumps. It gives us shivers. It controls the nerves and the functions in our physical form. It's just wild. It's just wild. I like hearing these things when I research the stuff about music, because in my quest to make a life and a career out of music, something in music, whether that's making music or teaching music or music therapy or understanding music, or this documentary paying off to the masses, this podcast, I should say, which it's slowly getting there. I did get an offer to do some sponsored ads in this podcast, and I said, "Oh, how dare you? I'm made of more conviction than that." And the reason I'm made of more conviction of that is because I drink Coca-Cola. No, terrible joke. Oh dear. Anyway, yes, and if I might get $15 for every 1,000 play. So much like when I released my viral video last year of playing my music on repeat and earning $30 or 30 cents per stream. I reckon from this podcast series, if I start doing this sponsored ads, I'll start raking in another sort of 15 to 20 cents per episode. Oh, baby. Now we're talking. Yes. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yes, that explains music better, the power of music better than I can explain it. There was an interesting whole bit in the audiobook and the blog about whether music is evolutionary or whether it's just like cultural human invention. And there were a few schools of thought. And I was reading this guy, Steven Pinker, who was talking about how music is not evolutionary. And he was calling music things like auditory cheesecake and useless. I thought, oh, piss off, mate. Music's bloody sick. You don't know what you're talking about. Then I looked into who he was, and he's a professor at Harvard and has been studying music for, decades. So I'll give him some merit and some credit, I guess. But very interesting what he thought. He because music is processed in so many other parts of the brain, he was saying that if music weren't to exist, it wouldn't make a difference to the makeup of our brain and how our brain has made up over the process of evolution over these, thousands and thousands of years. Music is just kind of this bonus, this kind of, what did he call it? A recreational drug for the ear that we ingest through our ear or something. And to an extent, I see that point. I see that point for sure. But the one thing, there's two things that made me question the validity of that summation. The first one is, what is music? Like, I don't know what music is. No one really knows what music is. It doesn't really have a definition. I mean, any sound, is music sound? Like, is any sound music? Or is it the relationship between sounds? I like that definition, that a sound is just a sound, but when you compare it against another sound, that is what makes music. So for example, over on the piano, if I play this note, that's just a sound, right? It's just a note. But if I play something like this, that relationship between those different notes is what makes music. And then the question is, how far do you go with that in the realm of sound? Like, if a car is driving past, is that whoosh, the start of the whoosh compared to the end of the whoosh? You know what I mean? They're like, meow, fucking meow, like that thing. The fucking meow. Is that music? That certainly wasn't music, whatever that was. But is that music? I don't know. And to an extent, no one knows. And to an extent, there is no rule or law or definition. So when Pinker says music is useless, and that it all kind of stems from language, it's just like this byproduct of language. Well, I don't know, because language can be musical as well, right? So that's the first problem. And then the second problem is, we know that music is a thing. So what came first? Did music or language come first? And that's something that we'll never know. Like, that's impossible to know. I keep saying we, like I'm part of the science group because I've done this podcast talking to myself. Sorry, scientists. But yeah, we I'm just going to keep saying it. We will never know. But in my opinion, I feel like music had to have come first. Like, the grunting of a caveman to assert dominance and become the ideal mating partner would have been a thing before language. We don't really know how long language has been around for. No written language started in Mesopotamia, in around sort of 3 to 5,000 BC. So around 7,000 years or so, written language has been around. We know rock art exists in Indigenous Australia and has so for, even just the other day, I went down the road and saw some rock art drawings from around 50,000 years ago. They're said to be the oldest rock art drawings of anywhere in the world. So that's a communicative form of language. And that probably almost suggests that music and singing and that relationship has been around longer than language. There were bone flutes found in, I think, Slovenia or something. Around 35,000 years ago, they were dated back to. They used bones and they carved little holes in it. So was language around then? I mean, it would have been in some extent, but I think it would have been quite primal, and quite sort of I don't know what you call that word, but certainly not as developed as what language is now. So if music came first, then it is so unbelievably biologically important in terms of evolution, because it shaped Well, it birthed the idea of language, right? It is what separated us from animals, because we know like birds will sing to mate. There's lions will roar. There's all sorts of examples in the animal realm of sound, which isn't language. It's not language. Sound being used to, for sexual selection. So surely the sort of Neanderthal or the first humans would have had a similar concept, similar idea. Interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. Then, of course, there were many scientists that thought music was evolutionary. This sexual selection theory. They related, one guy, Miller, I think it was, related the peacock to sexual selection. And that's a very obvious physical manifestation example of sexual selection, is that a peacock, the male peacock. And I learned, sorry, just to interrupt, I learned that a peacock is a male peacock, but a female peacock is not called a peacock, it's called a peahen. I feel like that makes me underwhelmed hearing peahen. I see a peacock, I'm like, oh, that's pretty beautiful. I feel whelmed knowing that you're called a peacock. But then I see a peahen, and I'm like, no, that doesn't sit well with me. I don't like that name. But anyway, so the male peacock has to develop this like ornate tail, this beautiful, unique tail to try and impress the female. But it can only do that in its own body by having the ability to have extra or excess energy or like strength to be able to create it. So in that sense, it's got to be strong enough to protect itself. It's got to be good at foraging for food, and it's got to, not be malnourished and that kind of thing. And then as a result of that, or as a result of its health and its strength, it can grow this tail. So the peahen is not necessarily seeing a beautiful tail and being like, oof, so beautiful, please take me. It's seeing that tail as a representation of the peacock being strong and being able to protect itself and being able to, give to others and give to the future babies, peacock babies. I don't know what peacock peahen babies are called. Peacalves? Ugh, please. Peachicks, I guess, right? Peachick. Anyway, so music developed, like people that can play music throughout civilization. It's not so much a physical manifestation, but perhaps it shows or it explains a potential mating partner or reproductive partner that, this person is literate or intelligent or creative or, I don't know, maybe like strong, I guess, in the sense that they're able to play an instrument. But yeah, that's a pretty interesting theory. And then the other one, the other really strong point as to why music is biologically evolutionary, a process of biological evolution, was the sort of social cohesion and the group bonding thing. And that's something that I'm going to look into in one of the episodes coming up, because the studies that I read, they talked about like the social bonding of, for example, moving in unison at a concert. So, like there's a driving beat and everyone's clapping their hands or hands are in the air, swaying side to side, whatever. That social bonding or that moment, it creates like a dopamine. It creates like serotonin. It makes you feel calm and happy. And there's something in that your brain thinks about what has made it calm and happy, and then it makes the individual feel more complete or more in the moment or more like receptive to the settings that it's in. And the case of a live concert, for example, you're around thousands and thousands of people. So I'm going to go into this in a future episode where I'm going to talk about the effect of live music, because I think live music is one of the great experiences in life. It's one of those very, very few things that exist in the world that can bring not only you, but everyone into this present collective moment of purity and bliss. So I'll go into that in a future episode. But interestingly, the brain kind of relates that moment to the group that it's in, to the group setting, and social cohesion and collaboration with other humans is what has made humankind advance beyond other animal species. There's a balance of cohesion and collaboration, and also like individual competition in life. And that individual competition, well, that is a survival of the fittest sort of manifestation, isn't it? Because you're always subconsciously, you're trying to like prove that you can reproduce, because I think that's what humans are hardwired to do, right? We've got to keep the species going. So there is this element of individual competition. And in the audiobook, I touched on the fear of intelligence. It's so eminent and prominent where I am. Like, I don't want to blow smoke up my own ass, but in my career, I've been in positions of little importance, of trivial relevance in regard to the construct of the organization. But I have ideas, I have ideas which I think have merit. I think they're okay. But no one fucking listens to me. I'm sure people, particularly around my age group, go through this as well. Like, it's so frustrating. Don't fear the intelligence of someone that has a good idea if you're in a position to execute that idea. Just go with it. It doesn't matter if it's you or someone else. Like, don't worry. No one's coming for your shit job anyway. Like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter in the world. Like, you're so many people's jobs, like including mine right now. This is now becoming a therapy session, but it's pointless. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter in a good and bad way. It doesn't matter in a good way. So it's like, let's just make things happen. Let's just do something of like infinitesimal, trivial meaning in relation to the world and comparison to the world. Like, putting on an event or something, it doesn't matter in the scheme of the world. But if it has the ability to make one person's life just slightly better for a little piece of time, let's just do it, right? Don't worry about if I came up with it, if you came up with it, or if this fucking peacock or peahen came up with it. Just do it, because it's what life is about, In the conclusion of the audiobook, I talked about this study and this guy, Charles Lynn, this neuroscientist, and he essentially, I'm going to read it. He says that if we just did things from memory, if we didn't improvise, if we weren't creative, we'd be gone as a species of humankind. He says it's actually maybe the most fundamental form of what it means to be human, to come up with a new idea. So if you've got a new idea, if you've got any creative spark, if you've got, even if you're not creative, you've got something in your life that you want to do, or you've wanted to do, you thought about doing, you're scared of doing, just do it. Just do it. Like, seriously, just do it. What's the worst that can happen? Just do it. I've talked with many people about my music quest, and I can only relate it to me right now. Like, I'm sorry, I can only relate it to me, but I'm sure you've got something in your mind that you're like, I've wanted to do this. It's like, just do it. Who gives a shit, right? Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in a good way. It doesn't matter because it doesn't matter because it couldn't matter more. Does that make sense? Like, your life is is fleeting, and it's temporary, and it's a moment in time. So capture that moment in time and build something cool and make something cool happen from your moment in time. Do something that gives you some purpose, that gives you some meaning. Do something that will make your peacock tail grow. Okay, I'm relaxed. Thank you. Sorry about that. It's important, It's important to be creative. I've talked with, my immediate music community, Stewie, Bennett, Jimbo, Domingo. Like we all go through this. Like we talk about starting to release something, or releasing videos or gig photos or whatever, and it's like it's hard not to get that immediate like gratification, because it's a grind, and I struggle with that, man. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I sitting here in a room right now doing this podcast and just talking to a camera? But I do it because it's a moment in time. It's something to give my life meaning and to give it purpose and to capture something cool and to do something cool and to be creative. So that's my inspiring pep talk for the week. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you listening, and I'll catch you later. Fly, peacock, fly. Peacocks don't fly, do they? All right, see ya.